he just vetoed that legislation. And so that's how it was defeated, the helium. We had a victory there, but it didn't last long because then they started going after hydrogen.
And where's the hydrogen proposal happening at?
So the plans were to put in a hydrogen processing plant in somewhere in or around Farmington, and then produce the hydrogen there, and then pipe it into our reservation, coming in at Hogback chapter area, going through Tisnaspas chapter, down to Red Mesa, Sweetwater, Mexican Water, down to Kayenta, down to Shanto, you know, all through that area, and then Tuba City, and then coming out at Cameron chapter, and continuing on to Phoenix, Yuma, Arizona, Las Vegas, and they were even talking about down to California. So that was like the tentative plan. So let me go back. So hydrogen is, you know, is everywhere. It's the most abundant element in the universe. You learn that in science, you know. And when it's with other elements, like, okay, so H2O is water. And so what they want to do is take those two H's and separate them from the O. So they want to use water, and it goes through a process called steam methane reform. And so meaning they are going to use natural gas, methane, and they're going to separate the H's from the O in that process. Once it becomes pure hydrogen, it's at that point that it becomes highly explosive. So then they want to put it into a gas form and put it into this pipeline. So that pipeline that they want to run, which is going to be over 200 miles through our reservation, is going to be an explosive pipeline because hydrogen wants to escape. That's just its character. You know, pipe it out to these off-reservation towns where they'll use it. Navajo Nation will not, you know, use the hydrogen. It will just bear all the dangerous impacts from that 200-mile-long pipeline. And these companies, which is Greenview and Tallgrass, they were proposing to not only, you know, they're set to benefit in the billions from this dangerous pipeline, and they're funded by Blackstone Energy, which is the same corporation that backed the, you know, the Dakota, the DAPL pipeline. They're that same company.
Is it part of, I don't know too much about Blackstone. I know about DAPL, but I was wondering, do they, does this company benefit more by going through reservations? Is it something that our the Navajo Nation president allowed? Is this something that all reservation presidents allow? They have, if not, they have governors, you know. But.
Yeah, so they were actually, in the beginning, they were actually wanting to go after some federal funding. The Biden infrastructure law, the IRA, they put out like over $8 billion for hydrogen hub developments. And so, well, they call it clean energy development, but hydrogen was a big part of that. So there was this money that was, you know, put out there, and these companies went after it. However, because we're in such a drought-stricken state, you know, we've been in a mega drought on the reservation. You know, it's been decades that we've been in a drought. That the federal government said, no, this is not a good area to produce hydrogen because it requires so much water. So other areas that have more abundant water, you know, like in the Northwest Coast, you know, like Pennsylvania, you know, these different areas that have an abundance of water, they got that funding. But they were proposing what they call the Shine Hub, Southwest Hydrogen Hub, and then this other one was called the Wish, and also, yeah, the Shine and the Wish. So the WISH is Western Interstate Hydrogen Hub. And that one was included with, okay, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. And so, but they didn't get funded. But Blackstone, after Department of Energy told them that they didn't get this funding, well, then they said, okay, well, Blackstone will just fund us 100%. So that's where it's at now. They're continuing to pursue these hydrogen hubs with Blackstone as their, funder. And back in, I believe might have been that same year, 2021, they met with Jonathan Nez and in Window Rock. They came to Window Rock, they met with him, and they proposed this idea. We've not seen the document, but we hear that Jonathan Nez signed some type of MOU agreement with them that allowed these companies to come in and begin this process. Our minerals department issued a letter. I want to say it was maybe in 2022 that they were issued this letter saying they can come in and they can begin their feasibility studies, to do the archaeological clearances, to see if this is something that they can move forward with. Once Boo won, then of course these company officials came after him, and I understand he also signed something with them. And then...
Did they give him more skateboards or something?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the modern uranium again.
Oh, yeah. So they're set to make...
feeding other states.
Yeah, they're set to make billions. They're offering chapters 30,000 per year, and there's 13 impacted chapters from Hogback all the way to Cameron. One chapter said, 30,000 is not even enough to fix our roof.
Yep, true.
And then what they're doing is they're going after the grazing permit holders. And a lot of our grazing permit holders are elders, and they only speak Navajo. So they've hired like consultants to work with them to interpret for them.
So who hired the consultants for them?
Greenview
So
and Tallgrass.
Greenview wants their own consultants to translate to the net farmers who are elderly.
Well, the grazing officials, so that have livestock and grazing land, which is the majority of the lands through that route. And of course, there's some home site lease holders in those certain areas. There might be some farm areas too, but so they're targeting the grazing permit holders, and they've been going to their homes. I understand they've been offering them a $500 check to sign a document for them.
So can you help me do the math? So billions minus $500, how much is that?
Right, yeah. What's that percentage?
Yeah,
.000 something. There's really no transparency because they're being real secretive about that. There's no accountability. There's no real regulations for this whole thing with hydrogen. There's just so many red flags. And so that's what we're up against. So what we've been doing at TNA, at Nizhoni Ani, and we've been going out in the communities since we got wind of this back in 2021. My co-worker, Jessica, she's been out there educating the communities with what little information we can gather. And she's done her research. She's an environmental scientist. And so she's done her research about hydrogen and everything. So she's been educating. So I take care of pretty much the northern Navajo side, and Jessica has been taking care of the western Navajo chapters. So out of the 13 chapters, now 2 chapters got overturned from us by Greenview and Tallgrass. So what they did was they went into these chapters at Hogback and Guttieye. They offered the chapter members $50 gift cards if they voted for their hydrogen supporting resolution. So they overturned two resolutions from us that way, basically bribing the community members to vote for their hydrogen.
For a fraction of a penny on billions.
Yeah. So that's how those two chapters got overturned. And we're saying, you know, we call that behavior out as bribery.
Yeah.
And so the Navajo Nation told these companies, don't do that anymore. Don't be offering gift cards. So far we have, the tally count is 9 chapters have opposition resolutions. 2 chapters, which is Gadiai and Hogback, have supporting hydrogen resolutions. And then 2 chapters are up in the air. They haven't voted either way on a resolution. And that is Denahoto chapter and Cameron chapter.
Na she kwada yada so yen sa nikilti na testa ti that best sayisnel doliki let not aninez.
Yeah, so if you go on our TNA website, which is Nizhoni.org, we've put our videos up on there. Some of the, you know, the education that we've been doing. We have a video, or it might be audio too, but it's in Diné Bikéyah. So a lot of our community members are saying, we want this information in our own language. You know, they understand it best in their own language. So that's what we did. So yeah, we try to educate in many ways that we can.
Who does your translation?
Usually Nicole Horseherder, our director, but we have hired other people, like Priscilla Weaver. She's from our Batlapatot community. Yeah, and others that whoever we can get, you know, whoever is available at the time. And then myself as well. I don't call myself fluent, but I try to, you know, I'm learning more as I go. Of course, you know, and that comes with our whole assimilation thing where, you know, I went to boarding school and my parents went to boarding school and we were all taught, you know, don't be speaking your Diné language. Speak English, you know, and you get in trouble for speaking Diné. And my husband is the same way. You know, his parents, his dad worked for the BIA, and so for the boarding school. And so he had that ingrained, that assimilation. So when he had his children, he told his wife, I want our children to learn English only. I don't want our children to learn Navajo. So, and Bessie, my late mother-in-law, you know, she spoke fluent Navajo. That was her first language. And but she had to raise her kids speaking English only. And so now to this day, you know, he's 60 years old now, and he's just now trying to learn his language, and I'm helping him to do that. I'm trying to reclaim my language as well, even at my age. And growing up, you know, I tried to teach our children our language, but it's hard when your own language is now your second language, you know. Yeah. And so I'm trying to reclaim it and make it our first language, you know, especially when you get that backlash, you know, from others in our communities that say, you know, and so you have to deal with that as well. But I always say, you know, we should not be condemning others for trying to speak our language. We should be encouraging. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I could not agree more with that. I was kind of raised the same way.
Yeah.
Obviously. San Juan coal plant. How did it, I read online that it was shut down in phases. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I guess they're all loaded with like grounded up cement, you know, or the whole plant being taken out in pieces.
And when I grew up, Shiprock in the 80s used to get about 12 inches of snow on a regular course. And never had dark clouds above year round. You can go about 20 miles outside of Shiprock, you'll see this dark black cloud looming over.